how the hell did they do that with Alexa Mini LF? Let's watch it again. That's more like it. So if you want to learn how to take your $230 camera and make it look like a $60,000 camera, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Speaking of a $60,000 cinema camera, getting your hands on high-end cameras and all sorts of different cameras is near impossible, and that's where our today's sponsor comes in. Most of my top comments are always about like, where can we get the footage to practice? And my answer is always the same: Artlist. Without Artlist, it would be impossible to cover the type of topics that I attack on my channel. And for me, what puts them in a class of their own is that they work with the best creators in the industry. If you're in a hurry, just download their beautifully graded footage, and done. But if you're like me and want to practice and hone your craft before working on your next dream gig, you can download either the log or raw version. By clicking the link in the description, you get 2 months of free subscription, which is absolutely insane. 3 years of running this channel, and this is the first sponsor that I've ever worked with, because I only want to collaborate with companies and brands that I truly believe in. So yeah, click the link below, make me look good. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button. Let's roll the intro. All right, so 2 giveaways that you're working with action cam footage and not a legit pro cam. Number 1 would be this fisheye action that's happening here, because usually expensive lenses won't have lens distortion like this. And then the second thing would be, if we go through and look at it, it just literally everything is frozen in place. The first thing to attack is very easy. Just go in your edit page, inspector, and let's fix the fisheye. So if you open the inspector down here in your lens correction, it will be like this. So open that up, and it is activated by default. Why is that? And why isn't it doing anything? If I turn this off and on, nothing happens. It's because it has 2 functions. This tool can make your footage correct, so get rid of the fisheye effect, or it can exaggerate it and add a fisheye effect. That said, when I click on analyze, boom, look what just happened. So now if we go here, done. All right, now I can further go in and kind of adjust it and move it around if I didn't get a desired result. But in my case, I was very happy with what it did, so I'm gonna do it again. That fixed the horizon line, everything looks perfect. So if I go here and play it back, it's great. It just absolutely fixed every single thing. Like, look at this, this was bent before, and now it's perfect. So our first problem is solved very easily. All right, let's analyze what's happening in terms of the motion and what can we do to jazz it up. So this is the frame that I'm gonna use to kind of build my motion blur, to kind of add that feel that there's so much movement and things are happening. But a pro tip is this: great artist steal, good ones copy. So I'm just gonna go and type in Mission Impossible 7 trailer. I just wanna kind of get an example for what is that blur that I'm looking for, right? You can basically go frame by frame by hitting period and comma, and I'm gonna park it somewhere around here. So that is a good reference point. You always wanna look for things that are done right and then steal it and then put our own flair on top of it. Because if I were to just start creating a motion blur, I mean, I can kind of get there and have like a good thing going, but it's not going to be one-to-one. It's not going to be like a really good, realistic motion blur. So let's try to do the same exact thing in Resolve. There are 2 ways to use your motion blur. Number 1, you can go down here in the motion effects tab and use this feature right here, or you can just type in motion blur and use that. But first, we're just gonna try using this, okay? And let's just see what we come up with. But before we even get into that, there's one additional step that I would highly recommend to get like a really realistic look when you're adding motion blur, especially with cameras that have small sensor. Everything is just always in focus. So the first thing that I would recommend is start with adding some blur. So we're gonna go in this tab right here, blur sharpen, and we're just gonna deal with this right here. So I'm gonna go in my blur settings, and what I wanna do is let's punch in, because what I wanna show you is that we're not gonna necessarily remove a lot of our actual detail. but it will add like a very nice effect. So even if I keep it somewhere around here, 53-ish, like it's still, there's a lot of detail. I'm not losing that. And just again, mind you, he's moving. If anybody's watching and going, now you're losing sharpening. Okay, let's go here. That's why we have a reference in place that we can constantly go back and forth and like see what's happening here. Look how it softens up the image to give it like a high-end camera feel. So it already started to go in our favor to create that illusion of motion blur, right? So this is already looking so good. We still have so much detail. We're perfectly fine. So I'm gonna leave that there, okay? That's gonna be an overall effect. Now I'm gonna go right here and let's start going through our motion blur options. So motion estimate type is basically quality. So faster is gonna be lower quality, better is gonna be better, and I'm definitely gonna use better. We're not even gonna entertain the idea of faster. If you want to see that, let's do this. So let me put it on faster and let me crank it like this. And just go all the way. See, like it's creating another like shadow right here. And then if we go to better, like it tries to bring it closer and does a better job. Obviously it's set to 100%, so that's why it's exaggerated, but I wanted to kind of share what's going on there. And then motion range is all about how much of the frame it has to analyze to give you more accurate results. So if I do motion range small, it's going to be taking like a smaller part, so it's going to render faster, but the thing is that the results are going to be very inaccurate, especially in a case like that, because there's so much movement that's happening. So if there's a lot of movement, do large. If there's not a lot of movement, you will be fine with small. But if I do large, you see like how it just brings everything close and together, and it's like so much better. Again, even if you look at this pole, and if I go to small, you see like how there's literally ghosting happening. And if I go to medium, it kind of splits the difference. But then if I go to large, it makes it a lot cleaner and a lot more realistic. Now we have to find like, what's a sweet spot for like the effect that I'm trying to create. So I'm gonna start just going through and kind of do this. And I personally feel like anywhere around 25, 26-ish is pretty believable, right? Because if I come here and show you this, it got rid of the artifacting, the ghosting that was happening on the hand. See, like it's so organic, like how the effect is being created. The only thing that I don't appreciate is this ghosting, because we won't see that in the real thing, right? When there is actual motion blur, there's not a lot of ghosting. So that is a pretty big problem, because if I play this through, like that ghosting kind of kills it for me, right? So like even right here, it's kind of distracting. Like it's not my favorite. So how can we attack that? Because that's what's going to separate selling this gag or making it look like an amateur did it. That's where the actual OFX comes in. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to keep this number in mind, right? Like all these settings, better, large, 26-ish. So I'm going to delete this, get rid of it, go back. Now I'm going to go and drop this effect on. So first glance, everything is the same up here, same as this. We got motion estimate, motion range, motion blur, estimate, range, blur. But what we don't have here that we have here is advanced control. Well, what is that? Let's find out. So let's right now set it to nothing. And what I'm gonna do is replicate our settings. So we're gonna go to better, we're gonna go to large, and then I wanna kind of put it somewhere around 27-ish. And now we're basically back to what we had. Okay, the magic happens when we go here. So in advanced, the blur direction, where do we wanna capture some frames from to rebuild that motion blur effect that we're trying to do? So it doesn't make much sense in definition, but like when we put it to practice, it makes a lot more sense. So if I take this and start moving it around, this is without, this is with, it's so much better, but it still is adding a lot of ghosting. Like there's a lot of ghosting that's being added. But if I click right here and I go to from previous frame, boom. All of a sudden, the effect is completely different. And now if we go here and look at what's happening, to like look at what's happening, and if I were to reset that, like look at the change that happened. So this doesn't look realistic. It's like, it doesn't have like a in-frame movement, right? It's just like a tacked on movement. Whereas as soon as I do this, now all of a sudden it's just like, boom, this is how it was shot. It was shot like this, don't forget. And this is where we're at. We created that, and this all happened with just a little change right here. So now if I pull out, and the most beautiful thing is, like, look at how this is kept sharpened, just like how this is sharp. So this is kept sharpened. And then if I go before and after, just look at what's happening here. So this is before, this is after. And now if we play it through, just like wherever we park, like, look at this, before and after, right? So just look at all of this, like what it's doing. This blows my mind. So this is how you would make your GoPro, your $300 camera, look like a $60,000 camera. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.